Hey, Mr. Love here, and today we're going to talk about some more economic concepts that I need you guys to be familiar with. Our learning target for today says I can analyze the way in which incentives and profits influence what is produced and distributed in a market system. We already talked about in a previous lesson what incentives are. It's a reward or some sort of extra something given to you to try to influence your economic decisions. We said the profit it's the reason in which why people go into business in the first place. So we're going to look at this learning target. We're going to spend today talking about what are the factors of production, what goes into producing an item, and what is the circular flow of the economy, and look at that economic model together. So in order to understand the factors of production, we first have to go through a couple of basic definitions and know the difference between goods and services. A good is some sort of tangible product. So for example, this coffee mug would be a good. All right, the coffee that goes inside of the coffee mug would be considered a good. A service would be work performed by someone for someone else. So it's the person who made the coffee. That would be a service. The barista, for example, at Starbucks or at the coffee shop will be performing a service. So there are four different factors of production that you need to be familiar with, and they are: the first one is land. The second one is labor. The third one is capital, T-A-L, and the last one, I'm not going to spell it out, is entrepreneurship. All right, so your four factors of production are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. When we talk about land in the factors of production, these are the gifts of nature that help us make things: soil, rain, forest, oil, minerals, all of that. So we need those natural resources, that land, in order to be able to make any product. So for example, sticking with our theme of coffee, the coffee beans, the land to grow the coffee beans, the soil, the fertilizer, all of that goes under the land category of natural resources. Labor is the nation's workforce. It's the people who are actually working to produce that good. Now, it could be physical talents or mental talents. So some people have higher propensity, if you will, for physical work. They're cut out for physical labor. I am not one of those people. And so we stick to more mental tasks. So factors such as population growth, education, war, quality of the workers, all of that affects how well and how quickly a product can be produced. The third one, capital. Capital comes in two forms. Capital can, number one, be money that you use. So when we use the word capital in economics, you want to think of money. Capital can also be in the form of capital goods. Now, this is a weird definition, but you need to be familiar with it, okay? A capital good is a good that is used in the further production of other goods. Did y'all follow me there? A good that is used in the further production of other goods. So let's take the hammer, for example. A hammer is a good. It is a tangible item that is produced by someone, and so you go to the store, you buy that hammer, you now have a hammer. That is a good. You just bought a good. But you use a hammer to make other things, right? And so that is a capital good. All of the machinery in a factory would be a capital good because somebody had to make that machine, and then you use that machine to make something else. So that's a capital good. And then the last one, entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs are individuals who start businesses. They're innovative with new products. They improve management techniques. I love the show Shark Tank. Those are entrepreneurs. They're people who come up with ideas for new businesses, new ways of doing things. People like Henry Ford coming up with the assembly line just revolutionized the way that things are produced. All right, so make sure that you are familiar with those factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So I turned my camera off for this slide, but you should still be able to hear me. We're going to talk about the circular flow of the economy, how goods and services flow throughout our economy. So we have over here different households, and could be your house. Over here we have businesses, and we'll make this one a big old factory with a smokestack coming out over here. So here you have households. Here, I'm going to abbreviate, you have businesses. All right. And then up here you have what's called the factor market. And down here you have what's known as the product market. Excuse my handwriting. All right? Well, how do goods and services and how does money flow throughout our economy? Well, we go to the product market. An example of the product market down here could be Walmart. We go to Walmart, why? To buy goods and services. And so goods and services flow into the households. Well, where does Walmart get these goods and services? They get them from their manufacturers. They get them from these different businesses that produce toilet paper or something like that. So goods and services flow from businesses to the product market. Well, businesses need certain things in order to produce that item. They need land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. And so we call those the factors of production. And they get those from what's called the factor market. Well, who buys and sells the factors of production? You and I do. I sell my labor to Cleveland County Schools. You might, if you go to work, you actually sell your labor. I might own the land that was sold to the school system. I might invest in a company, all of that. So the people, the households sell their factors of production. You and I own those, and we don't think about that, right? We own the entrepreneurship. We own the ideas that would go into the circular flow of the economy. So the factors of production and goods and services flow one way within our economy, but there's something that flows the other way within our economy, and that would be money. So let's start down here in the bottom right corner again. All right, if we go to the product market to buy goods and services, we have to spend money. So Walmart makes money because we bought that product, that shampoo, cologne, whatever it is, Ben & Jerry's ice cream from them. And they have to buy their product from these businesses. And so these businesses right here generate revenue. And that's a fancy term for profit. They're making money. All right, well, businesses have to get the factors of production from somewhere. They get it from the factor market. And so they're going to have different expenses, different costs for producing a good. And who do they buy the factors of production from? But from you and I. And we call that, when we sell our factors of production, we call that income. So the factors of production in goods and services flow one way within our economy. Income, costs, and money flows another way within our economy. So we can add the government here in the middle, who kind of goes between the factor market and the product market. So you might see that added. And there's also on the outside of this, but I have run out of room, you have the foreign sector too. So sometimes goods and services flow outside of our economy or our country that we've created right here on this screen. And they're there, and they go out into the foreign sector. So this is an economic model that represents the circular flow of the economy. I could see them giving you a picture of a model that looks very similar to this and asking which way do goods and services flow, etc. So make sure that you have this down in your notes and that you're familiar with that. So when it comes to economies, we like to know which country's economy would be bigger than another's. How do we know that? We use a measurement called GDP. GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product. Gross domestic product, quite simply, is the measure of the size of a country's economy. We measure final goods. A final good is a good that is sold directly to a consumer. It does not count the sale of what's called an intermediate good. So let me try to make this a little bit more sense. A car is a final good because you, the consumer, buy the car as that final good, right? It goes directly to the consumer. The tires that went into the production of that car are not final goods. They're intermediate goods because they're a part of that final good. Now, if you went to the store and bought tires, that's a final good. But something that goes into the production of something else is an intermediate good. So how do we measure GDP? It's got a pretty complicated formula, but we'll talk about it very quickly. GDP equals C plus I plus G, there we go, plus exports minus imports. All right, C plus I plus G plus exports minus imports. C stands for consumption. How much of final goods is bought and sold in a single country? Plus investment, right? What do we do with that money? Do we invest that money? How much money goes into the stock market is invested in a country? Plus, how much money does our government spend? Because that pumps money into our economy. That would be the G. Plus exports minus imports, which is interesting. Exports are goods that are going out of a country, aka we're selling those goods and we're making money. Imports are goods coming in, we're buying those. Well, GDP measures final goods, goods that are sold out of a country. So we have to take away the things that we buy, and that gives us the measure of GDP. If GDP is higher one year than it was the previous year, that means that our economy is expanding. And we can see that our economy is getting bigger, we're producing more. If GDP is less this year than it was last year, then we can say that our economy is getting smaller. Now, GDP does not measure your overall standard of living or your well-being. What it does say is how much is a country producing in a given amount of time. All right, so make sure that you're familiar with that as well. And we've gone over a lot of terms to look at what are the factors of production, how does the circular flow of the economy work, and what is GDP. So I think that'll be enough for this video, and I hope you guys have a great day.